picked a good day to visit today. This is our second Sunday, and we do that after church, about 11:30 down here. We have a fellowship meal that you're invited to join us with. We also do games after the meal. Not sure what we're going to do today, whether we're going to go outside and play croquet, another long games, or if everything's going to occur within this room. But please stay with us and enjoy some time of fellowship and food. It's free. If you're joining us via live stream, we welcome you to our service as well, but you're on your own when it comes to lunch. You miss out. I invite you now to turn in your bulletin to the back page of the insert, page 6, for our responsive call to worship. We are God's church. We come together to worship. He has given us His word. We come together to learn from Him. He has filled us with His power. We go out to bring others to Him. He has called us into His family. We come together to share our lives. He has put His words on our lips. We go out to tell the world about Him. He has given us His Spirit together to celebrate. He has showered us with His riches. We go out to share His goodness with others. He has freed us from our past to move forward. He has planned for us a glorious future. We go out to live our lives to please Him. We are God's church family. Come together to worship, to break bread. We are God's church family. May the Lord add to our number daily. Today we have a special guest with us, Tim Courtright. Tim is the leader at our church camp, Camp Swatara, and we have an ongoing relationship with Camp Swatara through our own Dave Byers, who serves on the board there. Tim has been the executive director since July of 2019, and prior to that, he provided leadership at Kenbrook Bible Camp, a Brethren of Christ affiliate camp north of Lebanon. He and his wife Joy have 4 children in their teens and 20s, and this year, this church has designated $4,500 for Camp Swatara support through our plan of ministry. If Tim's presentation this morning inspires you to support camp in a special way, next week you can designate gifts by writing Plan of Ministry, Camp Swatara, on a check or in your offering envelope. Your gift will soon be on its way to support those ministries there. If more than we have earmarked for camp is given, well, we'll make sure the rest gets up there too. So there's no pressure on you today, Tim. I believe Tim first has a brief video for us to watch, and then we'll look to him to share with us.
Less screen time, more camp time.
Well, morning, church family. On behalf of our staff and board at Camp Swatara, we just appreciate both the opportunity to come and share with you this morning, and also for your ongoing and faithful support, whether that's been in giving or in presence. We appreciate that, and thank you as it helps us to move our ministry forward. As Bob had shared a little bit about my family, so one of our children's joining us this morning. Our son, Toby, is here with me this morning, and my wife and I actually in August celebrate 26 years of marriage together. So it's wild because sometimes, you don't feel that old, but been around for a little bit. I have been in some form or capacity in camp ministry between Ohio and Pennsylvania, involved in camp ministry, if you count being a camper as well, for around almost 40 years now. So it has been a passion, and seeing God reflected through what he's made as well as through the community of believers is where I believe the heart of God's ministry to be executed and facilitated happens. I'll be with Camp Swatara 3 years in July, and so coming up on that mark and celebrating those 3 years. And something that's interesting is just in the past 2 months, groups that have been coming to Camp Swatara for, and I can actually say ages, I am just meeting them for the first time, because the last 2 years, as you can imagine, people have not been coming, and we even still have groups this year that are waiting until next year. And so there's still some people I have yet to meet, even though they've been coming for years and years to Camp Swatara. As far as organizationally and sharing an update, what's been happening, what have we been up to? We did reduce our board to a 6 voting member with 2 ex officio members. The point of doing that was for efficiency. When I started, we had 22 members around the table, and as I like to say, if you give every person on a significant issue 2 minutes to share, you can imagine how long the meeting might be. And so trying to work towards some efficiency, so we made that change. Something that's really exciting, and in counting God's provision for camp, when I began in 2019, our West area renovations had carried 2 loans to be able to have completed that project. One loan at the end of 2021 was retired by a donor early. That wasn't supposed to be retired for another couple of years. And by the Lord's good grace and provision, the first half of this year, we were able to retire the second debt, meaning all of that is retired to pave the way for a capital campaign that we're looking at developing right now. So very excited about that and having retired that debt. Currently, I think if we were to take a theme and what is it that we're focusing on is simple stewardship. The things that we have or have had, taking care of those things so that we're able to serve and conduct our ministry. So some of the things that we've done is replaced the roof in the east area. That was one of the first things actually back in 2020, end of 2019, 2020 that we did, so that the East Lodge can be taken care of and used. We've installed a lot of high energy efficient water heaters and heaters. We did some repairs to our barn that help it to be tight, but also to load some of the heavy equipment in the floor there. If you've been out to camp, you've hopefully seen our new canoe fleet, and that was all thanks to donors. 100%, all 8 boats were donated, and families have been enjoying that actually since last Labor Day. We also were able to purchase a new to us camp truck, and that also was through the generous donations of individuals. We have made some improvements in our campground. We've installed new high visibility signs. We installed a playground that was all from the proceeds of our campground auction for kids to play on near the 70s row. We also just installed our power backup generator to the west area. So if you've been out to camp and you've been there when the power's gone out in the west, the vision was there from those who conducted the project, and even though I could tell you some fun stories about supply demand, I'm sure you know them yourself, we were able to get that installed in April of this year, and so that is up and running, and we're very thankful for that. In terms of our program this year, I've had a couple of questions, which I will be here afterwards if you're interested in hearing more, but this summer's theme is Be a Hero, and it's out of Romans 15:13, which says, "May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit." So daily we're looking at how God is both calling us to be, but also how he is a hero. And all of our programs this summer are actually capped, meaning peaked. We actually can't accept any more campers, and we have wait lists. So we're thankful for that, but at the same time, we would love to be able to welcome those campers on the wait list. And some of that is a result of staffing that I'm sure you also know about that's happening. We are excited to welcome back our program manager, Zach, and we just started our programs actually Friday. We had our first big and small that ran Friday into yesterday, and today we welcome back our Monarch campers for the first time in a couple of years, and so that starts this afternoon, and we're excited to be doing that. We do have summer and year-round programs. I have information out at the booth if you'd like to stop in and talk about those, and then also just I think in terms of what is available in program, if you're interested, we're introducing more and more program to our family campground, and actually our summer staff who are part of our program this year will transition into our campground as soon as those sections are over, and we'll be offering anything from nature and arts, hikes, those kind of things through the campground through the rest of the summer. I think the last thing that I would offer is just in terms of our staffing. One of the first things that I sought to do, or at least influence in coming to Camp Swatara, is culture and culture shift. Someone who taught me a long time ago is that if staff are cared for, guests' families are cared for. And so in shifting the culture and also addressing the staff, there's a lot of needs at camp, but there's only so many staff. And so we have brought on some additional staff members. We have a new year-round buildings and grounds assistant manager. And so with 700 acres and a lot of buildings, it's nice to have that second position. And I probably don't need to explain this, but in housekeeping, needing to keep things clean, we have also a second position that is year-round to help with addressing everything from turnovers to cleanliness at camp. And I'd say then in terms of looking ahead next summer, we're interested in recruiting even now. So we do start hiring at age 14. There's some specific positions we're able to staff at age 14 and then on up into college. And so many departments you could serve. We certainly welcome if you have someone you could recommend. We'd love to have them serve, and volunteers as well. There's a lot of great volunteer opportunities. One of the new ones that we're going to offer is hosting on weekends for our retreat groups. So a host or a couple could come in and serve the group, whether checking in at meals, if they have questions, either answering or directing them appropriately. But then the host couple or individual also gets a retreat of their own. We provide food service. We provide the chalet for them to stay in and help volunteer in that way. So that's a new volunteer program we're introducing. Ultimately, I just want to offer a thank you. Thank you for supporting camp. Thank you for offering that for us, especially this year. One of the large areas that it does help in our ministry is to honor our staff, and being able to support a larger staff this year compared to the last couple, with staff members coming in college age, to be able to honor them appropriately in caring for campers and also caring for the ministry at camp. So thank you. We exist to provide opportunities for people of all ages to grow in a relationship with Jesus so that they can live their life in discipleship to Him. And we believe that happens again through what God's made and through the community of believers. And so thank you for being a part of that, and thanks for the opportunity to share this morning. Blessings.
Second Timothy tells us that God did not give us a timid spirit, but one of strength, power, and self-discipline. When it comes to Reese's peanut butter cups, I will work on that self-discipline, but in the meantime, let's concentrate on the power and rise to our feet to sing Great in Power.
Excuse me. heart to victory. You are my strength, and you always will be. I see the evidence of your goodness all over my life, all over my life. I see your promises in fulfillment all over my life, all over my life. See the cross, the empty grave, the evidence is endless. All my sin rolled away because of you, oh Jesus. See the cross, the empty grave, the evidence is endless. All my sin rolled away because of you, oh Jesus. I see the evidence of your goodness all over my life, all over my life. I see your promises in fulfillment all over my life, all over my life. I see the evidence of your goodness all over my life, all over my life. I see your promises in fulfillment all over my life, all over my life. Why should I fear? All the evidence is here. Why should I fear? All the evidence is here.
Sorry, you may be seated.
Awe came upon everyone because many wonders and signs were being done by the apostles. All who believed were together and had all things in common. They would sell their possessions and goods and distribute the proceeds to all, as any had need. Day by day, as they spent much time together in the temple, they broke bread at home and they ate their food with glad and generous hearts, praising God and having the goodwill of the people. And day by day, the Lord added to their number those who were being saved.
Good job. Thank you, Hope. Friends, when I was getting ready to take a look at this passage and think about what we might talk about today, I started thinking about beautiful words, sentences from literature that make our hearts soar. In the book Anne of Green Gables, L.M. Montgomery wrote, "Isn't it nice to know that tomorrow is always fresh with no mistakes in it yet?" In A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, Betty Smith wrote, "Dear God, let me be something every minute of every hour of my life." In the Diary of Anne Frank, we read, "In spite of everything, I still believe people are really good at heart." Maurice Sendak wrote in his timeless children's classic, "Let the Wild Rumpus Start." I love that book. And of course, you know, I have to quote Arthur Conan Doyle, who created Sherlock Holmes, to say, "When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth." and who also said, "The game is afoot." But one of the best lines from any literature anywhere that isn't the Bible comes to us from French novelist Alexandre Dumas Perret, who wrote in a novel in 1854 that is still famous today and has been translated into 30 languages, called The Three Musketeers. And the beautiful words are, "All for one and one for all." Today, references to the companionship of these three men come up in pop culture all the time, and one of the world's most famous confections was named after it, my personal favorite, the Three Musketeers bar. Here's a little fun trivia for you. When it was first introduced in 1932, Three Musketeers had 3 pieces of candy in it. One was chocolate, one vanilla, and one strawberry. I'd love to try that strawberry, wouldn't you? In 1945, the candy bar was switched to the single vanilla flavor, and it had 2 shallow scores in it so that it could be broken into 3 pieces. It was marketed as the candy bar that was so big you could share it with 2 of your closest friends. Nowadays, it's sold as the candy bar with half the fat of comparable candy bars, and that works for me. Less guilt, more candy. Back to Dumas and his Three Musketeers. A 4th man named D'Artagnan sets out to find and join the famed 3 Musketeers of the King's Guard, Athos, Porthos, and Aramis. Dumas, he paints these characters with joy and humor. There's a good-natured and lighthearted banter among them, but when it comes time to do the job for which they are not only famous, but to which they have dedicated their very lives, that's when they get very serious and stop smiling and enjoying one another. No! If you believe that, you've never read the book or seen one of the more than 33 Musketeers movies made since the first silent movie version was made in 1921 starring Douglas Fairbanks. When it comes time for the 3 Musketeers to start out toward the work laid before them, that's when they cry, "All for one and one for all," and that's when their fun begins. Now, I think that we can learn from applying the 3 Musketeers' famous words to our walk with God. We should be doing all we can for the one, God, who is already the one doing all for us. All for one and one for all, and with the spirit of joy and excitement that having God for our lives is sure to manifest in us when we're true believers. And I believe that only people who find joy in Jesus, once they've been introduced to him, will come to know him well enough to be saved. I'd like to suggest to us, brothers and sisters, that some Christians may be going about the work of sharing the gospel of Jesus all wrong. Is it possible that some of us are a little too stern, a little too severe, a little too somber or grave or subdued about the ways in which we share this love that has changed and shaped our lives? Some of you know Todd Wenger, who used to attend our church. In a message he gave a few years ago, he said, "We do need to go out and find lost sheep and bring them to Christ. But maybe we don't need to throw a Bible at their heads right away or make them come to church so that somebody else could be in charge of saving them. Maybe it's more important for us to build relationships with them and just be there for them, and then to introduce Jesus at an appropriate time." Todd said that God is surely in favor of church growth. I'd hate to think he isn't, but that God wants the growth to be about the people who are found in Jesus, not just pew warmers. And I think that's true. But I think that also sometimes we build these relationships in the hope that our Jesus will rub off on them through osmosis. Friends, we're going to have to practice mentioning his name, talking about how much we love him, our church, and how much we enjoy life with each other here. Certainly, the message of the gospel is extremely important and very serious. And in fact, you and I know it is literally a matter of life and death. But if we aren't sharing it with the good-natured love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, our own deep faith, self-control, and a touch of gentleness, we're not going to succeed, especially in this world we live in today. We have to do things differently than the way our ancestors did them nowadays. I have been known to kid around about our forebears and the very stern ways in which they went about bringing and keeping people close to the church. But I hope you'll remember, too, the ways in which I have praised them with respect and admiration. I have honored their dreams and their sincere desire to share Jesus with people who did not know him, to live simply for their sake and for his sake, and to show their love for him by the manner of their living. I love them for what they did for us, for me. Both in Schwarzenau, Germany, when they baptized each other in the Ader River, at great personal risk to their lives, and if not that, then at least to their livelihoods. And here at the Lancaster Church those many years ago, and every place in between. I respect and admire all of them, but I think we can agree, all of us, they were living in different times than we are living. So I have to see humor in the thought of us trying to do things in the same ways today. The methods of strict severity that worked for our forefathers and mothers will not work now. They applied those techniques in a day when living by that kind of code brought them a kind of joy we will never really be able to understand. If we tried their methods of bringing people and keeping people close to Jesus today, we would fail miserably. And in many ways, we hung on to that for so long, we have failed. Church numbers have plummeted. Many of our children and grandchildren aren't here. And even people who profess to be Christians aren't dedicated to showing up for church 48 or 50 Sundays a year. We live now in a different world than they knew. And yet, I long for some of the things they took for granted. When those people had spiritual revival meetings, everyone came. Love feast, everyone came. Those things were a priority for their lives. When there was a fellowship meal or a church picnic, everyone came. When someone was sick, everyone prayed, everyone served their family, everyone came. We are missing a lot of that. But there is so much going on in our world. Soccer games, Little League, music rehearsals, service club meetings, retirement community activities. Have you ever seen the list of things those people have to choose from at the Brethren Village day in and day out? TV shows, video games, travel, golf, motorcycle rides, jobs, and so much more. And yes, maybe the church shouldn't have to compete, but we do have to compete. And I understand that. I myself, I try to make my family's activities a priority in my life. And Bob's call to ministry is very important to him and certainly to God. And so I try to balance that with my commitments here and our call from God to be here at Lancaster together. For those who are working, I know your jobs are very important to you, and not just from a breadwinner perspective. Jobs help to define us. They make us feel good about ourselves. I get all that. But friends, I still believe all of us belong at this church with our families as often as we can make it. Maybe we need to develop that attitude, all for one, with God being the one and all being each and every one of us together. Jesus has already given himself completely for us to the point of death on a cross. He's the one for all that we seek. So how about this, brothers and sisters? I want to challenge us. Unless there's someplace else you have to be, will you make a commitment to be at church when there's something going on here? Will you agree with me right here today to no longer sleep in on a Sunday just because you're tired? If there's no scheduling conflict, you'll get up and come to church, won't you? No more waking up on Sunday and saying, ugh, the weather's bad, let's sleep in. Or worse, the weather's good, let's do yard work. We're tired. The game went too late last night. And by the way, that Barnstormers game did go late last night, but it was so much fun and so worth it. How about I ate too much last night? I had a busy week. I just need a day off. We often hear comments like, oh, I can worship God in my home. I don't need the church. or I can experience God in nature. And while those things are true, I am convinced that the presence of others matters